magic is all around us. But you'll never see it if you don't go out and look. That is a Mogwai. Mogwai are the rarest mystical creatures. No mortal has seen one for centuries.
Do you have a first name? Gizmo? Gizmo? Hi, Gizmo. I'm Sam.
This species is wildly dangerous. Never get them wet. No bright light. And never feed them after midnight. Our only concern should be the Mogwai falling into the wrong hands.
Who's that?
The wrong hands. Where is my Mogwai? These creatures may prove useful in my endeavors. First, Shanghai. Then, the world.
If we don't save Gizmo, who will? Come get us!
We need to return Gizmo to his home to save humanity.
You'll never catch Sam. We are dealing with creatures who want chaos.
I simply need to channel their destructive energy.
We're the only ones who know how to do this. If we don't end it here, the world becomes a ghost city.
How many monsters did you slay today, huh?
Same as always. 0.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to Cherry the Geek TV. I'm Joe Vanourney. Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai is a new animated prequel series to the beloved 1980s Gremlin film franchise. It's a Max original series. First few episodes are available now, with additional episodes dropping weekly. And today we are joined by the showrunner and executive producers of Gremlins Secrets of the Mogwai, Tze Chun and Brendan Hay. Tze and Brendan, welcome to Cherry the Geek TV.
Thank you for having us on.
I want to start by going back to the beginning, right? The very beginning. Gremlins has been around for decades. How old were you when you first saw Gremlins, and what kind of impact did it have on you? Because the age you see it at, that kind of affects your viewpoint, right? If you see it at one age, it's a terrifying film. If you see it at a different age, it's all about Phoebe Cates. So tell me about how old were you, and what was the impact that it had on you?
I think I was probably around, I think Brendan and I were both around 10, 11 years old when we watched it. Brendan, I think maybe you were younger.
I was going to say, because I saw it about 6 or 7 with some older cousins who did not properly prepare me. So I definitely fell in the terrified camp. The mom versus Gremlins both thrilled and totally gave me nightmares.
I mean, I think first time I watched it, I barely could kind of wrap my head around the tone. I mean, it was so funny, but also really scary and disturbing. And that was the impetus for what we wanted to bring to the prequels, that tone.
Yeah. So there haven't been any new installments of the Gremlins franchise since the late 80s. There's been rumors over the past decades of a possible sequel, and Joe Dante's coming back and Zach Galligan's coming back. None of those materialized. You've been handed the keys to the kingdom, right? There's different ways you can approach this new series. You could, it's an animated series, so you could gear it more towards kids and make it cutesy and more gizmo-centric. Or you could gear it towards the people who were kids when the originals came out, who are now in their late 40s and 50s, and make it more serious and serialized. Or you can blend the two, make a combination of the both. Talk about how you approached developing the series. Who is your target audience, and how did you kind of shape the series to meet that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Brendan and I are, we like to think of ourselves as like fan people first and like writers second. And so, as fans of the original Gremlins franchise, we wanted to make sure that we were creating something that appealed to people who are, our age and watched it when they were kids, but also bring in new fans to the franchise. And so, we really looked at this as a co-viewing show, and it was really important to us that we could have every member of the family watch it together and have something in it for all of them. And that's kind of how we started. And another big influence on this was obviously like the Amblin movies that we grew up watching, and a lot of those movies have kind of like child protagonists, but they're in an adult world with life or death stakes. And that's true of like Gremlins and Goonies. And so wanting to honor that legacy by doing a big, fun action adventure story that's still like scary and funny and weird, and has the DNA of Joe Dante's original movies.
Yeah. And I think kind of part of the lasting charm and like why people love Gremlins is it actually, even the original films go for both, because you have something like, if you lean too far in the Gizmo side, it could be too cute. It could be the kind of just solely geared towards younger viewers. If you lean too much to the Gremlin side, we've seen other things that go just purely dark and anarchic and stuff like that. Having those two tones together is, I think, what makes Gremlins unique and special. So that's what we always strive for.
As far as also approaching the series, there's different ways you could do it, right? You could make it as a sequel. You could, in your case, you chose to do a prequel series set in 1920s China. I'm curious, why did you choose that route? What made it come? What made it like that? That's the way to recharge the franchise.
Well, I think Joe had famously tried to make Gremlins 2 sequel proof. And
That's
so it was
yeah.
definitely hard to figure out, how to make something that happens after those movies. And a lot of this started with Warner Brothers and Amblin talking about like, what does a Gremlins, animated show look like? Is it a prequel? And just kind of targeting, this old Chinese Mr. Wing from the original movies, and what does an origin story look like for him, and how did he meet Gizmo? What adventures did they go on? And for me, I mean, a lot of the spirits and creatures from Chinese mythology that kind of are woven through the show are things that I grew up with, and so it felt like it was just like a really special new way into the story while still telling like a coming of age story, which is kind of in the DNA of that first Gremlins movie as well.
Mm-hmm. And
So,
yeah, it's just it felt like the most open area, because it's like you said, how do you top that versus there's so much that's hinted at in those opening scenes with Mr. Wing in that shop. There's so much to explore, like how that all came to be.
So Joe Dante directed the two Gremlins films. Steven Spielberg was the executive producer. Both of their names are on this new series. I was wondering if you could talk about what their contributions were to your show.
I mean, it was great. I mean, just Joe came on board early on in the process. We sent him a couple of the scripts, and I mean, getting his seal of approval was really important to both of us. He came in and talked about what the original movies were like when he was making them. And I think he was also excited that we didn't have to deal with puppets in this, even though obviously like the original movie is so special because the effects are practical. He liked that we were able to do things with Gizmo that he maybe couldn't have done in the original movies.
Like Gizmo can walk now without breaking down a dozen times.
And early after we kind of pitched out the first season internally, we all, Brennan and I and our supervisor producer met with Spielberg, and we pitched him the show. And one of the most touching things to me was just the first thing he asked after we were done pitching. First off, he said, "Good job," so that was really nice. But then he was like, "Has Joe seen it, and is he happy?" And I thought that was really amazing. Just after all these years of working together, that was the first thing that he was concerned about, was to make sure that Joe was happy. You
have an amazing voice cast filled with many Asian American voice actors, Ming Na Wen and James Hong, BD Wong, Sandra Oh, Randall Park, George Takei, as well as other talent like Matthew Reese and Zach Galligan's back, not as Billy, but as a different character. Talk about assembling that amazing voice cast.
I've really never had this experience before, and I'm not sure that Brendan has either, where you just kind of like, all right, pie in the sky, here are the people that we would want, and they all kind of say yes. And so we just feel really lucky. And having just recently seen the first 2 episodes on the big screen and surround sound, I mean, just the way that our actors brought these characters to life was just incredible to watch over the course of production.
Yeah, especially they all were so amazing. It's just now again watching it and hearing like, oh, the little reaction effort from like James Hong, or just like the little intonations and weird things along the way that like Matthew Reese would find and add. Everybody just gave so much to it. And it is, it's the only time I've ever had where it's like, you usually start with like, oh, I want a George Takei type. And then this is like the rare time, like, oh, George would do this. George is interested. It never goes that easy.
We are sadly out of time. Before we go, I just want to ask, so this is a serialized story, self-contained season. Are there plans, though, if this series is a success, which I think it will be, will future seasons be a continuation of this season, or are you going to jump around and tell it with different characters? What's kind of the...
So we were very lucky in that we got a green light for a second season while we were in production for the first season. And so the second season is almost done. We don't have a release date yet. But beyond the second season, there's 60 years of history before Mr. Wing is found in the original Gremlins movies. And so we certainly have a lot of stories to tell in this space, and we would love to continue this series.
Yeah, I think our main through line is just following Mr. Wing and Gizmo.
Well, I can't wait to see what happens next. The show is called Gremlins, Secrets of the Mogwai. It's streaming now on Max. And Z and Brendan, thank you so much for chatting with us today on Share the Geek TV.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you.